Tune into Nice Radio every Saturday at 7:30 a.m. for A View from the Outside, hosted by Brereton Horne. A View from the Outside takes a look at key issues affecting St Vincent and the Grenadines and gives a global perspective on how these issues are viewed. Host Brereton Horne will examine a variety of topics to enlighten, stimulate debate, and explore solutions. Hear the facts, hear the real-life stories, hear A View from the Outside. Join Brereton Horne at 7:30 a.m. every Saturday on Nice Radio for A View from the Outside.
This society needs a spectacle. It might help us to see some evil. This society needs a spectacle.
On A View from the Outside this week being the 6th of January 2024, we revisit the topic trust, having previously covered it on the 6th of February 2021. And we do so in light of the increasing lack of trust with which Vincentians view information coming from officialdom in St Vincent and the Grenadines. Here, we reiterate the definition of the word trust. The Cambridge Dictionary states that trust is to believe that someone is good and honest and will not harm you, or that something is safe and reliable. And the Oxford Dictionary defines trust as firm belief in the reliability, truth, or ability of someone or something. Those definitions tell us that to trust someone is to believe firmly that you can depend on the truthfulness of that someone. To trust someone is to believe strongly that you can rely on that someone. To trust someone is to believe earnestly in the safety of that someone. So in that context, if you do not trust someone, you feel that it is not safe or reliable. And similarly, it is in that context that it is often said, he or she is such a liar. You can't trust a word which he or she says. Far too often now, those are the words, and I repeat them, he or she is such a liar. You can't trust a word which he or she says. Those words are the words which far too often now are reverberating around St Vincent and the Grenadines. Those are the words which one reads when one looks at comments on social media. Many people far and near express a lack of trust in the information disseminated by those in authority in St Vincent and the Grenadines. And it is for that reason why we, here on A View from the Outside, have chosen to revisit this topic today. When we first covered this topic on the 6th of February 2021, we highlighted the deficiency, some say dishonesty, pertaining to the information disseminated during the COVID-19 pandemic. Information also relating to dengue fever, the volcanic eruption of La Soufrière, and other things. That episode is available on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page and other social media sites. In that episode, we highlighted the bewilderment and befuddlement of many Vincentians at the time. And we also focused on the lack of trust and total incredulity by which most people viewed information communicated to them. We emphasized the need for Vincentians to be treated better and to have clear, unambiguous, and truthful information made available to everyone. Since that program in 2021, not much, if anything, seems to have changed to improve trust in the information communicated to the Vincentian people. Due to time constraints, and since we cannot conceivably cover every example from 2021, we will now highlight a few recent examples to demonstrate that the lack of trust still prevails in terms of information coming from officialdom in St Vincent and the Grenadines. Just before last Christmas, around the 22nd of December 2023, words began to seep through that a plane left Canouan, one of the Grenadines island of St Vincent and the Grenadines, and that plane disappeared completely. Everything seemed shrouded in secrecy. There was no information in the first place about the flight details or about who were on board. For days, nothing was heard from any official about the disappearance of the plane. And as such, social media became rife with speculations about why the plane disappeared and why officialdom remained stum or dumb about it. When the silence was eventually broken and the response finally came, it came not from any aviation official, but it came from the Prime Minister of the country. He communicated to his radio listeners that, and I quote, "It has become evident that the plane didn't so much disappear as feigned disappearance, because the thesis which is being operated on is that they turned off the transponder," unquote. So, according to the Prime Minister, the disappearance of the plane was feigned because those on board turned off the transponder. Well, at least that's the advice he said he received. Well, to feign means to pretend or to make believe. But that begs a question. Why did those on board feign a disappearance, if that's what they did? Why did they feign their disappearance? That question is not answered by what the Prime Minister went on to say. He said, there is no evidence that anything illegal boarded that aircraft in Canouan. Why did the Prime Minister feel it necessary to say that? Who said that there was something illegal on board the plane? And if, as inferred, there was something illegal on board the plane, where was it boarded if it was not in Canouan? Many questions. In fact, more questions than answers, you may think, arise out of that. Subsequent to the Prime Minister's musings, an online publication called caribdaily.news carried two separate articles with what appeared to be extensive explanatory information about the disappearance of the plane and about the subsequent crash of the plane. It left many readers to raise their eyebrows as to where that publication got its information on the subject. It is interesting to note that they, as in the publication, have since removed the two articles. And because of that removal, there's much speculation that they probably appeared to know too much and have exposed too much in relation to the disappearance of that plane. That is a developing story, in as much as there's some effort made to quell it. So, despite those releases about the disappearance of the plane, which came after an extensive period of silence, Vincentians are left very much in the dark and incredulous of the information they received from officials, including the Prime Minister. Vincentians generally simply do not believe or trust such information. Of course, that lack of trust unhelpfully and unhealthily leads to continued speculation. Another example to demonstrate Vincentians' lack of trust in information dispensed to them from officials in the country relates to a photograph which surfaced showing the Prime Minister of St Vincent and the Grenadines being photographed some time ago with a map of Venezuela that includes Guyana's Essequibo country incorporated into Venezuela. One would remember that that is the very issue for the Argyle meeting of the heads of both countries and others. It is the very issue for which Guyana has taken Venezuela to the International Court of Justice. It is the very issue for the conflict between the two countries. The very issue for which the Argyle meeting purported to resolve. Since this photograph surfaced, many people accuse the Prime Minister of St Vincent and the Grenadines of not being honest in his dealings with Guyana on the issue. Many say that by his presence in the photograph, he evidently is siding with Venezuela. The Prime Minister has since given an explanation of his presence in the photograph. Many people do not accept the explanation that he was unaware of or ignorant about the contents of the map. So that lack of trust continues. That lack of trust is rife. Another example pertaining to such a lack of trust relates to the recent tragic plane crash off Bequia and the recovery operation which was carried out. Following the recovery process, the St Vincent and the Grenadines police force issued an official statement. In that statement, they appeared to have given all the accolades and praise to the St Vincent and the Grenadines Coast Guard. People were dissatisfied with that, and people took to social media and chastised the police for the obvious omission of not having recognized the Herculean effort played by the local divers in Bequia. This is what one person remarked on Facebook, and I quote, "Imagine, they didn't even highlight the valiant efforts of the Bequia fishermen who braved those waters to try to retrieve the bodies and secure the plane. Talking about Coast Guard hurried to the site," unquote. Soon after what was said on social media, the police in St. Vincent and the Grenadines issued a second statement which said, in part, and I quote, "The RSVGPF, which is Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force, wishes to give full credit to the valiant efforts of the fishermen and divers from the Bequia community who collaborated with the SVG Coast Guard in the retrieval operation," unquote. It is for that reason, or reasons like that, their retraction or correction, why Vincentians are so reticent to trust information from the police. And that in itself contributes to the general distrust that people have for the police in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We can go on and cite many more instances of lack of trust. However, due to the limitation of time, we here on A View from the Outside encourage you to now identify many other examples that you know of. We also remind you to listen to our previous episode on trust, which we did on the 6th of February 2021. When you have done so, continue the conversation with your colleagues and demand better and demand more from officials in the country. Keep the conversation going. Until next week, this is Brereton Horne with a view from the outside, with a reminder to send your feedback as usual to aviewfromtheoutside@hotmail.com. We also invite you to visit and like our Facebook page at A View from the Outside, and visit our YouTube channel at A View from the Outside. Have a pleasant Saturday, have a wonderful Sunday, and have a productive week ahead.